I'm going to continue on with the idea of this triangle, talk about what it is and why it is so folks can better determine why they encounter the things that they encounter or see the patterns that they see. But first, I want to introduce ego into the conversation. I think that it is a key component that explains folks' motivations. I've come to understand ego to be the blend that you get when you have somebody's personal desires and what society views as morally correct. When we look at ego through the lens of psychology, you start to dive into concepts like the conscience and the subconscious influencing our actions, and other concepts like the personality. I highly recommend that you go and study ego, do some research on it so you can help it make sense for you. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the triangle to see what society believes of dark-skinned men. If you recall in my last video, I talked about how the black community regards dark skin as a masculine feature. You can find this dynamic in almost every facet of the black culture, with probably the exception of politics and economics. And I'm going to show you some clips that are more recent, but it's really just a drop in the bucket because these images have been shown for decades. And I will be a fool to believe that these images hasn't reached some of these guys' subconscious, giving them this idea that they have of themselves. Next, you can see how dark skin being masculine translates for dark skinned women. Notice the sort of authoritative themes. Then lastly, we have light skinned women and the kind of media surrounding them. As you can see, they are portrayed as, the beauty, the sparkle, the object that gets your attention. I chose clips that show each group separately. However, there are clips out there that shows what happens when you pair these groups. Again, with the media like this shown often, I have no doubts that there are many people who find this sort of dynamic and themes to be normal. I want to take this triangle concept further from an individual level to a group level. As you can see from the triangle, each side has 2 points. We already talked about the 2 points, but I want to now name each side. The names of each side, but I'm going to describe it anyway. Basically, I want you to think about what ties these 2 points together. What ties these 2 people together? I will start with dark-skinned women and light-skinned women. What ties these 2 together? The answer is their womanhood. You've probably heard of the sisterhood, feminism. You've also probably heard of hypergamy. Next, I'm going to talk about what ties light-skinned women together with dark-skinned men. And the answer to that is, from what I've seen, it's been entertainment, things like the media, kind of sort of propaganda if you think about it. In other words, it's nothing really meaningful behind it. And then I want to get to what ties together dark-skinned men and dark-skinned women. And it's pretty obvious, their skin tone, the concept of them being the original, and kind of the social tip will be the colorism conversation. Pay attention to the fact that each side has a point that's on the opposite of it. And this is where the phenomenon of where you see two sides teaming up on, or two of the people teaming up on that individual that's on the opposite side. For example, dark-skinned women and light-skinned women helping to facilitate dark-skinned men's egos as being the most masculine, which dark-skinned men accept. You should expect dark-skinned men being brought up as being the most masculine. At the same time, it means that they'll be also taken down by said masculinity. Now, me personally, I expected, like the whole Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Me Too movement fiasco, I expected the women to use these terms like toxic masculinity. I expected dark-skinned guys to react kind of violently. Basically because the women brought them up as being the most masculine, and all of a sudden it's like they don't want it anymore. It's toxic now, leading them to sort of a brick wall. So I expected like the hostile response that dark-skinned men have. And I also expect that the women would report this hostile response in order to help prove what they've been talking about, the toxic masculinity piece, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't expect dark-skinned men to get out of this phenomenon, this chokehold, the feminist chokehold, unless that they start to get help from other men, namely light-skinned men, ironically. When dark-skinned men and light-skinned women team up, they're going to regard dark-skinned women as the mother figure, the authentic black woman, but at the same time, she will be called assertive or overbearing, trying to force the black community to be, or to do what she wants as sort of the maternal figure. I expect dark-skinned men and light-skinned women to start to distance themselves because of dark-skinned women being sort of the maternal. Entertainment and media is going to be on their side, as they'll be able to look at instances of dark-skinned women being irate while looking towards the opposite of where light-skinned women are going to be a little more cooperative. Then lastly, we have light-skinned women who are going to be they're going to be brought up as being seen as different in their appearance, the exotic one. But at the same time, they are going to be ostracized for it because they aren't, quote unquote, not the authentic black person. and dark-skinned women are going to use that colorism as the thing to separate. The colorism conversation is going to be the chokehold that light-skinned women won't be able to escape from. It's the same exact chokehold that dark-skinned men won't be able to escape from when it comes to the feminist hypergamy thing. And it's the same exact chokehold that dark-skinned women won't be able to escape from when it comes to dark-skinned men and light-skinned women. You've heard them say the whole opposites attracts thing. Light-skinned women are just more feminine, dark-skinned men are just more masculine, that sort of thing. And when I say chokehold, I do mean chokehold. This is something that's going to be hard to break away from. And this is the dynamic that I see in the Black community, the status quo. I'm going to wind down this video. I don't want to get in too long. I do want to say that this is only the tip of the iceberg. I do plan on doing subsequent videos further describing and giving examples of this triangle dynamic. There really isn't much that goes on in the Black community that doesn't tie back to this triangle in some way, this dynamic. I also want to say that the things that I've said isn't anything that's actually new. In fact, I think that most light-skinned people knew this already by the time that they get to at least 10 years old. If you've gotten comments about how you are different, whether you have the stereotypical good hair, the nice eyes, if you've gotten questions about are you adopted, what are you mixed with, those kind of things, this video was really only a reminder. It's just that nobody really tells us the game or helps us to look at it through this lens. So we go by thinking that this thing is normal when it's actually not. But that's all. That's all for this video.